I've got kind of an old one for you, but this was shared on Facebook and I just had to make a video about it. This is from the New York Times. I believe it's from the New York Times. It is from the New York Times. Centrists are the most hostile to democracy, not extremists. Oh my God. Some of the conclusions they draw in this op-ed based on the data is so dumb. Just absolutely insane. But they're not entirely wrong, and I'll tell you why. Some centrists, undecided individuals, would prefer a strong authoritative leader. It's true. There are people on the left who might oppose 65% of what the government is doing. There are people on the right who might oppose 65% of what the government is doing. And there are centrists who might only oppose 50% of what the government is doing. You see what I mean? Like, there's a balance. But also, there are probably a decent amount of people who consider themselves centrists because they don't have strong opinions one way or the other, and they defer to a strong man, someone else who can lead for them. And that's one of the arguments they make. But it is rather silly to make that claim, because right now in the cultural civil war, we literally have James O'Keefe putting out these videos where you can see people who work in government, presumably, at least according to his videos, breaking the law. And I'm not a legal expert, and I think his videos are obviously going to be, partisan. But he does show DSA members, socialists, bragging about how they're working on campaign materials and using government resources for political reasons. When you have things like that, okay, those people are extremists. You have extremists on the left and the right, though most of the extremists on the right are like fizzling away and burning out. They're a threat, right? The far left infiltrating institutions and wanting to like shut down capitalism and disrupt all of this like normal life stuff is dangerous. Centrists kind of mill about and aren't particularly strong one way or the other, and are willing to have discussions to which you could sway them to your side. Then, look, I mean, people on the left call it the revolution and the resistance. How is the centrists the threat? Let's see what this guy's claiming. As the warning signs are flashing red. Democracy is under threat across Europe and North America. Candidates are more authoritarian. Party systems are more volatile, and citizens are more hostile to the norms and institutions of liberal democracy. And this is true for the left and the right. Dear Lord, it is. Now look, YouTube is a conservative place. It really is. And I was told by someone at Google the reason for this is that liberals don't search for news. Conservatives do search for news. The reason for that is that conservatives tend not to trust established media. So you end up with people on the left who trust the media, and they're just going to, listen to CNN and say that's true. But then you're going to have conservatives who go, no way, I'm going to go online and research on my own, and they're going to find more conservative opinions. Thus, YouTube is a very conservative place. However, I, as Mr. Mixed-Race Social Liberal friend that you all love to watch so much, believe that yes, when it comes to hostility to certain institutions, the left and the right are not unique. Like, the left isn't the only one doing this. However, many of the people who consider themselves to be right, in my opinion, probably misalign themselves, and many people who consider themselves to be left aren't speaking up. So what we end up having is an extremely vocal and angry and violent far left that's seeping into media institutions. Like, there's an article about, on my main channel, I talked about that silly report. Someone from the Daily Beast, Kelly Weil, actually defended Richard Spencer, arguing that he mopped the floor with Carl Benjamin. And I'm like, you really want to go after someone like Carl Benjamin so much that you'll literally defend Richard Spencer? Okay, that's crazy. That's nuts. And that's what we're seeing. But when I talk about the right that is equally nuts, I'm not talking about regular old middle Americans who are searching on YouTube. I'm talking about sovereign citizen types like anarcho-capitalists and fascistic far-right authoritarian types. There are much less of those, and they're not very prominent. The left has way more influential resistance revolutionary types who are prominent than the right does, but the point I'm trying to make is that they do exist on both sides. I think the important thing to talk about here is don't internalize anything I say, right? And what I mean by this is sometimes I've made videos where I've talked about how there have been Trump supporters who have attacked the left. And immediately a bunch of people start getting angry saying, no, that's not true. The Trump supporters don't do this. Hold on. I never said they attack the left more than the left attacks the right. I'm simply pointing out that, yes, it does happen. And to proclaim otherwise would be to lie. There was a story not that long ago of like some guy in a Trump hat who apparently like pushed someone on the train track, something like that. I don't know. The point is, I try to clarify, if you do a Google search, you will find overwhelmingly that it is people attacking Trump supporters. We just had some woman make like a false story up where she claimed a Trump supporter attacked her. It didn't happen. In my opinion, most Trump supporters that I have met are kind of just like run-of-the-mill American conservatives who aren't extremely active. You do have some very active people, but the left is particularly active, okay? So don't internalize that when I say these things. It doesn't mean there's an equivalence. I'm just stating these things do happen. We'll carry on with this argument because let's just jump to the data points, all right? So he says centrists are the most skeptical of democracy. Percentage of people who say democracy is a very good political system. And he shows that in all these countries, Denmark, Sweden, Germany, Italy, Norway, Spain, Australia, New Zealand, Austria, Finland, France, Britain, European average, United States average, and the Netherlands, we can see that centrists are low across the board. However, in Spain, the far right is not democratic. But as you may recall, Spain had a military dictatorship, and they still have a lot of people who support a military dictatorship. And Italy and Germany, wow. So, okay. Now, in other, and I'll point this out too, for like the United States, you can see centrists are below the right. I think I can explain this and give you my opinion. The left controls institutions. Now, currently the Republicans control government, like basically all of government. But the left controls media, academia, social media, tech. So because of this, you have a lot of people on the left who believe that it's working because they have power in high places. Conservatives tend to agree with this too, especially when you have Trump as president, but when you see the media going after Trump as hard as they do, and how they didn't do the same for Obama, you're going to see less trust here. And centrists, in my opinion, I believe there's a decent amount of people who are centrists who just don't have strong enough opinions and defer to someone else. However, I believe people who are in the middle is because they think everyone's insane. And if you think everyone's insane and lying and crazy, you don't think democracy will work, right? So there is like centrist authoritarianism is a serious issue that no one talks about. They talk about far left authoritarianism, they talk about far right authoritarianism, but what about centrist authoritarianism, which yes, is a bad thing. It doesn't matter where you are, left or right, authoritarianism is a bad thing, and you can be a centrist authoritarian, meaning on an individual level, you want a strong person to decide for you. You don't have a strong opinion yourself, you don't believe left or right, or you believe in a strong authoritarian regulated system. I don't know. However, I think there's a decent amount of libertarianish people, probably closer to what I am. I'm a social liberal, so I am more on the left spectrum. Like center is, maybe. But my idea is I don't trust people that much. So I believe we should decentralize power as much as possible to prevent any one group from oppressing another group. That's a good thing, and we believe in freedom and upholding, the presumption of innocence and things of this nature. And because of that, I don't think, if you were to ask me, I would say democracy, direct democracy, I would actually disagree with. It's not, because democracy implies a majority rule. And that could mean that you get let's say you've got 7 factions in your country and they're all broken up evenly. One group that's got 20% of the vote can now control everything. So direct democracy might not actually work as well as a republic would, where we elect representatives who we feel best uphold our values. And that's not perfect either. Honestly, I don't know what the right system is. But in terms of me being a centrist and skeptical of democracy, it specifically has to do with understanding our system as a constitutional republic with democratic elections versus direct democracy. However, I think at the spirit of this, I absolutely believe in the idea of democracy and decentralized power and anti-authoritarianism. I just, I'm nitpicking here. They say centrists are the least likely to support free and fair elections. And I think it's why, for reason I explained, I think a lot of people who might consider themselves centrists, as in they're not left or right, might just be, I don't know, man, you do it, you figure it out kind of people. Here's centrists are least likely to support liberal institutions, which is so weird. What is this? Percentage of people who say civil rights that protect people's liberty from state oppression is an essential feature of democracy. And for this, you know what I think the reason is? I think, assuming this is true, honestly, I think it's because centrists just shrug. I don't know. You ask someone on the right and they're going to say, I know what I want. You're going to ask someone on the left, say, I know what I want. You ask someone in the middle and they go, I don't know. And so then they say, okay, they're not sure. They're not going to support it because they don't know what to do. But this is the best. It says, okay, this is where it gets good. Centrists are most supportive of authoritarianism. Parentheses, except for the far right. You have 3 choices, man. 3. Left, center, right. You can't say they're the most supportive of authoritarianism except for the far right, because you're literally saying the far right is the most authoritarian. It's absolutely ridiculous. So we can see that across the board, the right supports authoritarianism, and the left does not, and centrists are in second. Why would they claim that centrists are above? But actually, this is really interesting because here we can see 40% approve in the U.S. average. That's crazy. That's scary to me. Let me point out, I don't necessarily consider myself a centrist. I'm a social liberal, which is a left of center position, not right in the middle. I have my opinions and I know what needs to be done, but I also believe in decentralization. So it's really interesting. They say the percentage of Americans who support strongman leaders. And this is what I wanted to point out because I think it's not entirely incorrect. I think you've probably got a lot of people who are fence sitters and they don't want to decide. They want someone else to decide. I bet a lot of centrists they don't want to be involved either. And that means they say, leave me alone and you do your thing. And they probably don't vote in a lot of circumstances. So let's just read his final conclusion. He says, across Europe and North America, support for democracy is in decline. To explain this trend, conventional wisdom points to the political extremes, both far left and far right, are, according to this view, willing to ride roughshod over, is that how you say that? Over democratic institutions to achieve radical change. Moderates, by contrast, are assumed to defend liberal democracy, its principles and institutions. The numbers indicate this isn't the case. As Western democracies descend into dysfunction, no group is immune to the allure of authoritarianism, least of all centrists, who seem to prefer strong and efficient government over messy democratic policies. Well, I certainly don't. Strongmen in the developing world have historically found support in the center. And yes, says, could the same thing happen in mature democracies like Britain, France, the United States? I don't think so. We have a constitution. But hey, do you think centrists are the worst? I don't know, whatever. Comment. I got another video coming up in just a few minutes. Stick around.